Okay, so what we have here are two machines. First, a Dell Studio XPS with a Core i5 processor. Plenty powerful, plenty noisy, as you can probably hear. And over here we have the HP Envy X2 with a Atom chip, Clover Trail Atom chip. It's very small, very lightweight. This happens to be a transformer, so I can remove the tablet if I want and just use it as a tablet. Now obviously the Core i5 is much faster than a Clover Trail chip. However, I'd like to do some everyday tests to compare these two in just kind of non-high performance scenarios. Things like opening browsers, launching apps. See which one is faster. And obviously for high-end games, we know that the i5 is going to win, so I'm not going to really launch any high-end games because I don't see the value in that test. But we'll do other things. We'll do Photoshop, we'll do Internet Explorer, we'll launch web pages, we'll launch apps, and we'll just see if it's worth it to sacrifice some battery life for the i5, or if maybe it makes sense to gain some battery life, sacrifice power, and go for a Clover Trail. Alright, we're going to do a sleep resume test between a Intel Core i5 and a Dell XPS and an Intel Atom on the HP Envy X2. Let's start with the i5. This does not have an SSD, it's just a hard drive. There you go. Now let's do a shutdown and restart test between the i5 and the Envy X2. And go. Let's glare. And the Envy's back. In. Seems to be pretty responsive. Waiting for the i5. Meanwhile, I'm doing some stuff, getting some work done. There we go. Interesting. And we're in. Okay, let's launch Word on the i5 and the Clover Trail. See which one opens faster. I expect the i5 to win this race. Wow. This is the first time I launched it over here, I guess. Come on, i5. That's got to be an anomaly. Let's try it again. Alright, this is a relatively clean install of Windows 8 on my i5 here, but okay, let's try this again. i5 and Atom. There, i5 won that time, but just barely. Alright, let's try launching a couple Windows Store apps to see if we can get the i5 to win a few races here. Let's try Music. Neither one should be running, so let's see which is faster. And the Atom won again. This Atom chip is kind of surprising me. I don't have anything queued up here, so let's just skip that. Let's try something else. Let's try video. Ready, go. And the Atom wins again. That must be that hard drive on my XPS. Sometimes, even though it's not an SSD in the HPNV, it's eMMC, but it's still pretty quick, I'd say. Keep wanting to touch the screen. Let's try opening up the Xbox games. There you go. And sure enough, the Atom chip wins again. Alright, well, let's see if I can find another, maybe launching a game. Let's try that Netflix test this time. Let's see which one works fastest. Pretty much a dead heat. Pretty close. Alright, let's try a little bit of HTML5 benchmarks. This one, the i5, I'm confident will win. Let's do the fishbowl. We're already at 60 frames per second on the i5. And we're sitting around 30 frames per second on the Atom chip. Let's go ahead and just set this to auto and see how high she goes. We're up at 100 fish, still 60 frames per second. At 300 fish. If I were to put this up to 100 fish, what happens? We're still at about 25 frames per second, but I mean, we're already up to almost 600 fish on the i5 and still 60 frames per second. Where the Atom here is struggling at 23 frames per second for 100 fish. You know, it's admirable for the Atom, but let's try 500 and see what happens. Yeah, we're still at 60 frames per second on the i5, down to 7 frames per second at 500 fish on the Atom. So that's very clearly where the Atom is going to struggle, is for graphics processing. But hey, browser's still responsive, that's good. Alright, time for a little more demanding challenge. Let's open Photoshop. At the same time on the i5, Dell XPS, and the Clover Trail HP NVX2. i5 certainly the first there. And Clover Trail. So yes, it was slower, but honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Let's see, what do we have here? Opening a file off the network there, by the way. So, Yeah, it seems to work. So there you have it. Okay, we're going to do a website load test on the Dell XPS, Studio XPS running a Core i5, and the HP Envy running a Clovertail Trail Trip. Now you never really know if these tests are valid because they're both hitting the same Wi-Fi network, and you just never really know what the router's going to hand out first. We'll try loading up the Verge and see what happens. And loading. So yeah, looks like the i5 won. Let's, since I've already been on the Verge today, it could have been cached. Let's try Engadget. There you go. Okay, this seems a little more even. Still not seeing it. There comes the picture. I should note that my internet speed is really not that fast here. But that was pretty even, I would say. Let's try picking out a story here. Ready, go. Yeah, again, pretty even. The i5 maybe edged out a tiny bit, but overall, I'm just not seeing a whole lot of difference here. Let's try going somewhere else. Let's just try CNN. Go. i5 is first here. You know, but it's still, I mean, it's super smooth, even though the i5 is maybe finished loading it a little bit faster. I'm really not complaining. Plus, once you use a touchscreen to scroll on web pages, you just don't really want to do it any other way. There you have it. Okay, so here we have it. We have the Intel Core i5 Dell XPS versus the Intel Atom chip in an HP Envy X2. From an overall performance perspective, which do you think is faster? Conventional wisdom tells us the Core i5 is faster. It's a higher performance chip. But that really depends, I think, in what you classify as performance. Is performance sheer processing power, or is performance the ability to resume from sleep instantly? Is performance the ability to have battery life that lasts 12 hours versus battery life that lasts 4 hours? Is the performance connected standby, allowing you to essentially have all of your email up to date the instant you turn it on? All of these things I think classify as performance. So if high-end gaming is important to you when you're on the road traveling and you need your laptop, definitely make sure you buy a Core i, some sort of a Core processor. But if you're on the road traveling and you really prefer portability, battery life, and the occasional tablet-style game, then I think you really shouldn't discount the Intel Atom chip simply because it's Atom. And I know we have a lot of bad memories of Atom from a few years ago when the Atom chips were very slow, and with Windows 7 we had a very hard time keeping pace. But I believe Windows 8 and the newest Atom chips are far better than most people realize. So you can judge for yourself which you think is the best from a performance category. I tend to think that a desktop machine at home or an older core processor machine at home for doing those performance related tasks is important. But 99% of the time, I'm not playing high-end games when I'm traveling or remote. And therefore, I would prefer to have the Clover Trail chip. All right, thank you.